What you're about to see isn't a conspiracy theory, it's an openly discussed agenda, presented with smiles and woke slogans, powered by all of the massive corporations, NGOs, and politicians you know and love. And behind this curtain of progressive ideologies, something far more sinister is unfolding. A plan to create a world akin to dystopian fiction. 24/7 surveillance, no private property ownership, censorship, behavior-based punishment, merging of government and corporate power, and an illusion of safety to justify it all. Once you understand who is shaping this future and how long they've been planning it, you'll realize the pieces are already in place. Welcome to the World Economic Forum's Great Reset.
But it's very transparent. We want to be a very transparent organization.
Founded in 1971 by Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, or WEF, is the organization partly responsible for restructuring the future of society. It began as the European Management Forum, a think tank meant to connect business, government, and academia. Klaus Schwab's early worldview was shaped by growing up in post-World War II Germany and observing the economic tug-of-war between Soviet communism and Western capitalism. In his own words, "I became very intrigued by the complementary roles business and government played in shaping the future of our country." The ineffectiveness in both political systems made Schwab determined to find a more holistic alternative. Schwab later studied at Harvard under Henry Kissinger, a geopolitical strategist considered a war criminal by many. Henry Kissinger was also known for supposedly saying, "Who controls the food supply controls the people. Who controls energy can control whole continents. Who controls the money can control the world." After graduating from Harvard, Klaus Schwab returned to Europe and began organizing his first forums. And over the next few decades, his vision evolved from academic theory to global influence. The World Economic Forum expanded dramatically by the 1980s, drawing global political figures and billion-dollar corporations into its ranks. The WEF continued to gain popularity by the early 2000s, and in 2020, a special crisis occurred which gave Klaus Schwab the perfect opportunity to release a now infamous proposal, the Great Reset. One of the great lessons of the past 5 centuries in Europe and America is this: acute crises contribute to boosting the power of the state. It's always been the case, and there's no reason why it should be any different with the COVID-19 pandemic. Schwab claims the pandemic presents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. This wasn't just a response to chaos. It was a perfect opportunity, the one they were waiting for. Schwab's proposed replacement for capitalism is called stakeholder capitalism. It requires changing the goals of capitalism, mainly for companies, to being ideologically driven rather than profit-driven. A company's compliance to stakeholder capitalism is measured by a metric called ESG, or Environmental, Social, and Governance Score. Stakeholder capitalism does sound noble, with its claim to benefit all people and the planet, but in practice, it's the exact opposite. It means hiring based on diversity quotas rather than competence. It means financial institutions refusing services to companies or people who don't conform to delusional and economically damaging progressive agendas. Idealism over realism. Why is this such a bad thing? While the ESG score is being used to measure the success of an entity, a high ESG score doesn't always mean prosperity.
Well, you look at what's happening in Sri Lanka today.
Yeah.
There's rioting going on and all this because it's corruption. And basic corruption is what it is, but they're starving.
Yeah. They had put out an article 2 years ago, said that by 2025, they were going to be one of the richest nations. They were going to be the poster child for ESG, and it was on the WF website.
And ESG stands for?
Environmental, social, and governance. So they'd give you a score based off of these 3 metrics. That we will be the best by 2025, they said. By 2025, we'll be one of the richest nations in the world based off of this sustainability.
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
Coming apart at the seams right now.
Well, no, they're
gone.
completely gone. Yeah, they defaulted on their bonds. They got no money. Nobody will loan them any more money. They don't have any money to import any energy, so they have no energy.
So they went the path that the Great Reset is all about, and they're gone.
And they're gone.
ESG scoring also creates this weird power dynamic by centralizing decision-making into a global compliance structure that no one voted for, by making companies answer not to customers or shareholders, but to powerful, unelected international bodies. And how do I know that? Our favorite supervillain said it himself. From the World Economic Forum website article, The Key Stakeholders and Their Objectives. To ensure that both people and the planet prosper, 4 key stakeholders play a crucial role: governments, civil society, companies, and international community. These aren't just random groups. Many of their leaders are World Economic Forum members, including heads of state, corporate leaders, and representatives from all G20 countries. A few you might recognize, like Joe Biden, Keir Starmer, and Xi Jinping. Stakeholder capitalism would position these global leaders, billionaires, and dangerous dictators as a global government with authority over this socioeconomic system, and by proxy, all people and the planet. Schwab argues that this group will use its increased authority for our benefit, simply because they are people and make use of the planet. And while this is already a form of oligarchy, it's not even the part people are most concerned about. To really enforce the Great Reset, a terrifying digital infrastructure is being quietly built, and it all starts with a digital ID. One of the key tools the World Economic Forum supports is the rollout of digital IDs. During the pandemic, governments all around the world introduced digital health passports. If you wanted to travel, enter a building, or attend an event, you had to prove your health status, whether you were vaccinated or you'd recently tested negative. It was sold as a way to keep people safe, but it quickly turned into something more sinister: surveillance. China led the way, developing apps that tracked citizens' movements and health statuses in real time. If your health code turned red, you were banned from using public transport, entering buildings, or even leaving your home. During China's recent economic meltdown, for example, many citizens planned to gather and protest against big banks. But suddenly their health IDs turned red, meaning they have been quote-unquote exposed to the virus, even though they really haven't, and couldn't take public transportation or publicly gather. The system wasn't just about stopping the virus or even tracking you. It's about determining what you're allowed to do. And this is only the beginning. The World Economic Forum is pushing for a global adoption of digital IDs as part of their Great Reset. Klaus Schwab has openly admired the way China uses surveillance to control its population, and in fact, he believes that the rest of the world should follow China's lead. Now as the pandemic fades, the infrastructure remains. Governments have already built systems to track your health, and it's only a matter of time before they're used for more than just pandemics. In India, for example, over 1 billion people are a part of the Aadhaar system, a biometric ID that links your fingerprints, iris scans, and personal information to a single digital profile. Every step you take is now trackable. Every transaction, every hospital visit, every time you log into a service, you're leaving a digital trail that governments and corporations can use to monitor you. But this leads to something even scarier. Since the digital ID will know everything, it will know your own preferences better than you and be able to predict them. People may eventually become reliant on an AI system that recommends what food to eat, what books to read, what to watch on TV, what clothes to wear, and the list goes on. In the WEF article titled "It's 2030, I Own Nothing and Life Has Never Been Better," it reads, "Shopping? I can't really remember what that is. For most of us, it's just turned into choosing things to use. Sometimes I find this fun, and sometimes I just want the algorithm to do it for me. It knows my taste better than I do by now." This is already a reality. A prime example is your YouTube algorithm. YouTube measures what videos you watch and how long you watch them in order to recommend videos that keep you hooked on the platform. But here's the kicker, and possibly the most concerning part of this. Where do you think you'll be carrying this digital ID? Well, according to Klaus Schwab, it may be inside your body. In his book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, Klaus Schwab talks about how RFID chips can be used to track goods and packages all around the world, making our economies more efficient. And then proceeds to make a very interesting statement about this technology being used on humans. Quote, "In the near future, similar monitoring systems will also be applied to the movement and tracking of people." If that doesn't sound alarm bells in your mind, then I don't know what else will. But offering the mark of the beast isn't going to force obedience to the system, probably not. There needs to be a structure for compliance, a system of rewards and punishments. And that's where social credit scores come in. If you think social credit scores only exist in Black Mirror, you'd be wrong. Already operational in China, social credit scores punish citizens for everything from jaywalking to sharing dissenting opinions. And it works awfully similar to the credit scores we're familiar with, a numerical expression of an individual's creditworthiness. Step out of line and your social credit score drops. A low score can mean losing access to basic services like public transport, loans, or even housing. Some people with extremely low scores in China have even gotten their names and home addresses publicly posted on the news. Now imagine if that system expands, if governments adopt social credit scores linked to your digital ID. It won't be long before your monitored behavior affects your ability to travel, shop, or even get a job. Criticize the government, vote for the wrong political party, post something online that goes against the mainstream narrative, eat too much meat, buy forbidden books, your score plummets, and with it, your freedom.
You have been paid 2,000 central bank digital tokens. The following fees are being deducted: accommodation fee, food ration fee, recycling fee, clean energy fee, personal greenhouse gas emissions fee, climate change fee, diversity fee. Your current remaining balance is 5 central bank digital tokens, and if not spent, it will expire in 7 days.
There is a massive push for a cashless society by the global elites, but we're not talking about debit cards or even Bitcoin. We're talking about a centralized currency programmed by the new digital banking system called central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. Unlike Bitcoin, which is decentralized and anonymous, CBDCs are controlled directly by central authorities. This means that every dollar, yuan, or euro that you spend is logged on a centralized, immutable blockchain. Every purchase you make, whether it's groceries, fuel, or books, is tracked in real time. Governments can see exactly how much you're spending, and they can control it. If you spend too much on undesirable things like meat or luxury goods, they can impose limits. They can also freeze your account if you engage in protests or criticize their policies. We've already seen glimpses of how this might work. During the Canadian trucker protests in 2022, the government froze the bank accounts of individuals supporting the protest. Now just imagine the same thing with a CBDC, where the government doesn't just freeze your bank account but can actually prevent you from spending money on anything, all in the name of public safety or climate control. The International Monetary Fund and the World Economic Forum are pushing hard for the global adoption of CBDCs. They promise that it will make the financial system more efficient and more transparent, but in reality, it's about control. When money becomes digital, centralized, and programmable, it's no longer yours, it's theirs. They can decide where you spend it, how you spend it, and even if you're allowed to spend it. Remember the Henry Kissinger quote, "Control the money, control the world."
Bruce Kowalski. Your monthly universal basic income has been deposited into your account.
On the surface, universal basic income, or UBI, seems like a great idea. Free money for everyone because AI has taken everyone's jobs. The pitch is simple. Give people a basic, replenishing income so they can live without fear of unemployment or poverty. But here's what they don't tell you. UBI isn't a gift. It's a trap. The elites want to create a society where you're completely dependent on the system for your survival. They promise that with UBI, you won't have to worry about paying rent, buying food, or affording transportation. But again, there's a catch. You won't own anything. Instead of owning your home or car, you'll lease everything from the government or mega corporations. In exchange for free money, you're giving up your autonomy. What makes things worse is the fact that these CBDCs are programmable, meaning people may not even be able to store their wealth. The new system will most likely entail a replenishing income, where someone receives a certain amount of money every month, and if the money isn't spent, it's replenished with a completely new balance. In 2020, the World Economic Forum published an article predicting that by 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy, in support of their video from 2016. The reason this took the internet by storm is because this prediction isn't just a speculation. This is the trajectory of the future, a world where ownership no longer exists, and everything you need is rented from a subscription service. You don't own your apartment, you lease it. You don't own your car, you summon it. And if you don't follow the rules, if you don't keep your social credit score high, your ability to rent can be taken away. And if you're still not convinced this is where we're headed, just think about the things that have already become subscription services. Carrying CDs and DVD players became Netflix and Hulu, which are subscription streaming services. Physical photo albums have been replaced by Apple iCloud, another subscription service. Ordering groceries, clothes, and whatever else you need is done by Amazon, another subscription service. Slowly but surely, the idea of owning anything has been replaced with the idea of renting everything. And at first it felt convenient, but convenience has a cost. Welcome to digital feudalism, where ownership is replaced by access. You'll rent everything, but only if you obey. The World Economic Forum presents itself as a neutral facilitator, but it's very clear the types of ideas they enjoy promoting. And in actuality, it's a massive lobbying organization, nearly treasonous. In Schwab's own words,
When I mention now names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. But what we are very proud of now, the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets.
And when people begin to question this Young Global Leaders program and which politicians are involved, some weird things begin to happen.
Klaus Schwab is the head of the World Economic Forum, and he bragged how his subversive WEF, World Economic Forum, has, quoted, infiltrated governments around the world. He said that his organization had penetrated more than half of Canada's cabinet. And I was wondering, in the interest of transparency, could the member please name which cabinet ministers are on board with the WEF's agenda? My concern is the deputy.
Order. I know that the member was in a really good question there, but the audio is really bad and the video is really bad as well. And I apologize. I don't know if the member. Okay, let's try again. The honorable member for Timmins James Bay.
Mr. Speaker, that member was promoting open disinformation. That's not debate. We have to call it disinformation.
We'll get into debate again.
Strange. I didn't have any trouble hearing the question.
The deeper you look, the clearer it becomes. This isn't just collaboration, it's an infiltration. And the ones pulling the strings, you didn't vote for them. But they're reshaping the rules of your life without asking for your consent. It's not a conspiracy, it's their stated goal. And it's happening right now. But not everyone is going along with it. Around the world, people are beginning to wake up. they're turning to decentralized systems, Bitcoin, local food networks, off-grid living, using free speech platforms, and listening to independent media. They're moving away from smart cities and building new lives on their own terms. The people are becoming increasingly awake and pushing back, because the truth is, we don't need a reset. We need a revival, a return to prioritizing values, freedom, and personal sovereignty. So ask yourself this: are you ready to escape their future and build your own?